Howdy guys, Nathan here at ECD, East Coast Defender in Kissimmee, Florida. This is a very special place where they take old Land Rover products and they build them up from the ground up. And we're talking about beyond new, fully customized. They're not cheap, but also they have thousands of man hours to go into these vehicles, and each one is bespoke. And I'm gonna show you how this place works. So imagine buying a vehicle that you could go all the way down to the frame, the nuts and bolts, and then build it all the way back up exactly the way you want to do it. Well, that's what they do here at ECD. You go inside or online and you start from things like, I want this type of chassis, I want this type of setup, and I want this type of interior, and I want this type of engine. I kid you not, all of that you select. Every single component, and that's what they build here. And they start with this. Old Land Rovers that they brought over from the UK. They're over 25 years old, and most of them are coming here without running gear. It doesn't matter because they're going to replace it. As a matter of fact, everything you're seeing here is pretty much going to be thrown away. They're really going for the frame, and in many cases, even that has to be completely redone. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about this place is because of how far they have to go back in order to bring up a vehicle and make it more than brand new. Follow me here. This was imported and just a few days ago, stripped. This is how they start. Now, bear in mind, their turnaround from point A to point B, each component is 5 days. So, a vehicle that starts off like this, in just a few weeks, will be rolling and driving and then shortly thereafter given to the customer. What takes so much time is ordering and getting all those components together. And I'm going to show you some of the shops that actually create these components. But let's start over here, because this is where it all begins. Now notice it has the British patina. That means rust. And they have to cut it all out. Body is gone. Most of the bodies are not reused. They do reuse some of the components, but they completely refabricate them, and I'll show you that in a minute. But this is the next step. Now, ECD has just over 50 guys that work here, and each group of guys of 5 has a bay, and there's 1 leader per bay. So one guy is going to lead his team to take this, which is, by the way, a newer body, strip it all the way down, and eventually have this mated to a new frame. That's what happens to the frame later on, and I'll show you what happens once they bring them all together. All right, so remember when I was talking about that frame? These guys take between going from the rusted frame when the vehicle arrives to shipping it out to the client, 2,200 man hours are put into that vehicle on average, which is insane considering that it's a fraction that at a regular automaker. Once again, these guys go all the way down to the bare frame, completely redo it, galvanize it, change it completely, and you can choose what type of coat you want on it. That's how far back they go. And then in this case, air suspension, Fox shocks, Corvette engine, and we'll talk about engines and transmissions next. Now you've got your base rolling platform. What do you do next? Well, there are 8 engine transmission choices basically out there. That goes from the old rebuilt Rover engine, there's a diesel, and there's a bunch of big fat GM V8s, including this LS3. And now there's also a Tesla variant that is now available. Behind me, I have a classic Range Rover, but it's not exactly that. Follow me, let me show you something. Now currently, it's being updated with this. This is a Tesla powertrain. That's right, direct drive. It goes to a regular 4x4 system, but there's a Tesla under the hood. So yeah, there's quite a few options. And then you go from there to what you want in terms of suspension, the way you want your axles set up, the way you want the chassis set up with the suspension, whether or not you want an air suspension or a standard suspension. The choices are kind of infinite, and that's the crazy part, because each bay has 5 days to get to their next point. So there's a suspension area where they put in all the components onto the chassis, and then it has to roll after a quality check to the next bay, and then the next bay, and then the next bay. And I wanted to show you some of the cool stuff that's happening along the way. Remember how I said some of the components are repurposed and completely redone? Well, you're looking at some of them. Now, what's really interesting is that each part, each individual part, will have the client's name on it and follow them all the way through the process. In this case, Michael, this is part of your windscreen. This shop is an example of one of many different areas where they're doing the upholstery and they're actually sewing and putting together the seats individually. This particular one, which is a model, is showing a diamond pattern, but there are other patterns out there. As a matter of fact, you can use 3D imaging online and select the material, the color, the look, the stitch, everything. So let's say you want a pickup version, you want a 130, a 110, a 90. They can get it, and you can do pretty much anything you want to it. You get the impression they're busy here? These guys can't stop. Now they've turned around over 300 vehicles. Remember, each one of them is around 2,200 man-hours to build up. And it's from scratch, all the way down to a rusted frame, to a brand new frame, all the way up to a brand new body, brand new electronics, brand new engine, brand new transmission, brand new suspension, wheels, interior, steering wheel, stereo, you name it. They take it all the way out. Now this vehicle might be my favorite amongst all of them, and the best part is we get a chance to drive it, which is super cool. It's a Defender 90, but underneath it's a completely different vehicle. Here we go. Now that sounds good. Okay, so imagine I got a significant pay increase and I was able to buy pretty much whatever I want. This is a Defender 110, at least on the outside, but almost everything else is custom built, and we get a chance to drive it. Okay, how about we take off? Ready for a little speed? Wow! Okay, color me impressed. Well, there you have it. East Coast Defender, ECD. I highly recommend you go on to their website and just look and dream, because these vehicles start absolute base at $190,000 and then they can go up to around $300,000. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money for some of you guys out there, but remember, we're talking about a vehicle that involves 2,200 man-hours and is taken all the way down from its very base and brought all the way back up exactly the way you want it. It's kind of like coach builders from the 1930s. Everything is custom, and it's incredible. And please send a message to Roman that I need a significant pay raise so I can buy that Defender 90. Thank you for joining me. For TFL Studios, this is Nathan. I'll see you next time.